stuff. Hello, my name is Andrew Green. I am one of the co-founders of of Greentech Alliance. I'm coming to you live here from Berlin at the Factory Girl at the Park office, joined by two other co-founders in the same office with me here and another three in Kreuzberg. Thank you for joining us. We've got over 500 people registered for this event. We'll give it a couple of minutes to make sure that everyone has been able to join us. We are streaming live through YouTube, so if you have questions, we will have a question time at about 6:40 p.m. You can leave the questions on YouTube. So get over to the YouTube stream and leave your questions for anything that you have. And we'll start our presentation very, very soon, where all 6 of us founders will introduce ourselves, and one of our co-founders, Lubomila, will explain more about what Greentech is and a little bit of a run about what is happening in the evening and who our guests are for our panel starting at 7 p.m. CET. Now, just to test out that these comments are working, if you're on the YouTube, please let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what city, what country, or even what organization you're tuning in from, and let's get an idea of who is joining us. Already got a bunch of comments coming up. One from Toulouse, France. Hello, Yelto. Nice to have you with us. Who else have we got joining us? All right. Let's give it another minute more. Another person from Paris. Hello from Berlin. Nice to have you here, Dirk. Amsterdam, Berlin. Lots of people getting in the comments now. This is great. Thank you. Munich, San Francisco, Calgary, Stuttgart, Slovakia. Lots of people tuning in. This is fantastic. Thanks, guys. Oh, the Philippines, Israel, London. This is great to see so many people tuning in from around the world. It really explains one of the things that makes Greentech Alliance different is that it's a global, is that it has a global focus. Sao Paulo, Brazil. All right. Are you ready to jump in, Lubomila? Would you like to do an introduction? So I'm going to pass over to Lubomila, who is one of our co-founders, one of my co-founders, and she's going to tell you more about Greentech Alliance. And in the middle of this, the 6 of us will introduce ourselves. So I'll pass over to Lubomila and put myself on mute. Again, thank you for everyone tuning in. We've got South Africa, Belgium, Finland, lots of people tuning in. So keep those comments coming, guys. Thank you very much. And be sure to post your questions here too for the question time that's coming up in about 35 minutes.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to see so many of you here. Like, I'm seeing the numbers constantly increasing, and it's really exciting to see so many people be excited also about Greentech as much as we are. We're going to kick off the event with a short presentation about the vision behind the Alliance. We have been working tirelessly for the last month before work hours, after work hours, on weekends, to essentially be able to connect to the most impactful, the most transparent and committed environmental companies, and also to find the most incredible and excited about the Greentech topic advisors that will be there to support them on their journey. So what's the agenda for tonight? I'll start by quickly saying what is the story that we're focusing on today. So we are looking into presenting to you a bit about the vision of the Alliance, and also telling you a bit about the founders, how we got together, and what is the plan behind what we've been building, what is the plan behind the next few months. What is most important about the evening is for you to understand really well what we are aiming to achieve with this Alliance, and how we plan on doing this with the most transparent and exciting people on board. In order to address quickly the issue, I would like to invite the founders to present themselves first, and then I'll do the presentation afterwards, so that in the meantime I can take care of the presentation itself. Andrew, would you mind taking over again and getting JJ, Hannah, Simon, and Emma on board as well?
Okay, so while Lou gets on to the presentation, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Andrew Green. I'm based here in Berlin, along with a few of the other co-founders. I'm originally from Australia, and I am the founder of a company, a business called Wundertree. I founded that in Berlin last year after moving here from Australia. I've been working in advertising communications for about 10 years, and also media for companies like Vice in New York City. I've worked in a few different continents, and together with my business partner, we created Wundertree last year, which is trying to educate people about circular economy through the best time of the year, which is Christmas. So what we're trying to do is eliminate a lot of waste at Christmas time and create an afforestation project. To simplify, what we do is we sell Christmas trees that can live on, can be replanted in a forest and go as part as a reforest or an afforestation project. So this year, we're hoping to scale up in Berlin and possibly do a few other cities across Germany to address some of the 30 million Christmas trees that get burnt and incinerated every year. I'll pass on to JJ, who is sitting to my left. Introduce himself. He and Lubomila are both from Plan A, so JJ can introduce for the pair of them about what Plan A does and also a little bit about his history.
Thank you so much, Andrew. My name is JJ, or actually my name is Jan Jaap. I'm originally from the Netherlands. JJ is more easy to pronounce, so I'm sticking to JJ today and, well, in the foreseeable future. So as Andrew mentioned, I work at Plan A. Plan A is a company based out of Berlin where we help companies on their journey, because we believe sustainability is a journey, to help them measure and reduce their carbon footprinting. We are on a mission to help all organizations and companies around the world to hand them over to create the effective tooling that is needed to build a GHG neutral and sustainable economy. While doing that, we also offer the opportunity for companies to offset the remainder at the moment. As said, I'm originally from the Netherlands. The last 10 years I've been living in Amsterdam. I actually just moved to Berlin. So next to launching this initiative called the Greentech Alliance, I am also settling in Berlin. And to tell you how fresh it is, actually most of my stuff is still in Amsterdam. So I've learned to become a minimalist. I think that's good for the sustainability and good for my own footprint. But with that said, I would like to hand over to Hannah, who is not here next to me. She's very close in Kreuzberg. Hannah, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Great. So I'll go first from the office here, the second office in Berlin that we are streaming from. My name is Hannah Kuminga, and I am one of the founding members of the Greentech Alliance. I'm also the founder of Silfa, which is a fashion tech startup that is trying to reinvent sustainable fashion and how it's delivered. We kicked off the company last year with a crowdfunding campaign that was successfully funded on Kickstarter for a circular design outfit that we sold to over 250 people, and are now going to launch an app to complement the idea of the suit. And the app will actually be a global gifting club for clothes. So we are trying to democratize clothing and turn clothing into the gifting economy space. I think this has huge potential, and I'm super excited about launching it later this year. I'm also super excited about the Greentech Alliance, and I still cannot believe, I think all of us cannot believe how many people have joined, within the matter of some weeks, and that we have people from all over the globe interested in this. And I just feel like we're really at the core of implementing the green tech change that everyone's waiting for. And I mean, everyone knows that 2020 has been a crazy year, but I feel like it's also just bubbled up how important it is to, support green tech startups. And I couldn't be more proud to be part of this group. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi. So my name is Simon, Simontis in German. So I'm from Germany. I moved to Berlin 3 years ago. Used to live in San Francisco before. Had a small startup there. bringing more transparency to the supply chain of goods between Ecuador, Central America, and the Bay Area. Since I'm here, I founded a startup called ION. We revolutionize gas detection sensors to detect anything toxic in the air to make everybody's life more safe and learn more about our environment, the air we breathe every day. And at some point in the future, we might be able to use the same technology to build a leaf. So using a artificial photosynthesis. And that would be like a really breakthrough thing of saving a lot of energy and minimizing our footprint. I'm also a shareholder and part of the management of Green City Solutions. I'm honored to work together with two amazing co-founders here in Berlin. Green City Solutions is using MOS and IoT to capture fine dust out of the air and simultaneously measuring environmental data, bringing in weather and climate data to get a holistic footprint of what's happening around us. Next to all the measurements necessary, like planting a lot of trees and reducing our footprint, it's an amazing measure to do something right now where we are, because it's also a social topic, are super exposed to a lot of fine dust and pollution. And it's mostly the people who can't afford to live somewhere else. It's children in kindergartens next to streets. And this is where we want to place our technology. And yeah, check us out. And I'm, again, super honored to be part of the Greentech Alliance founders, and happy to be here and happy to have so many of you watching and kicking this off with us and contributing resources and each leverage we have. It's small or big, financially, intellectually, network. It's great. So passing on, Emma.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Emma Patmore. I come from Scotland originally, but have been living in Berlin for about 5 years. I work for Ecoligo. I'm the senior marketing strategist there. Not one of the founders, but have been there for over 4 years now, so seen the full journey. At Ecoligo, we develop solar projects in emerging markets for businesses. So we are active in Vietnam, Kenya, Ghana, Costa Rica, and just getting into Chile now as well. And we finance our projects through crowd investing. So on the platform www.ecoligo.investments, in case you're interested, we finance our projects and enable individuals then to participate in the global energy transition that we're trying to start. So over the past few years through the crowd investing platform, I've really seen how much impact people can have when they have a common goal and a framework to collaborate. And for me, this is kind of why I got involved in founding the Greentech Alliance and why I'm so excited about it, because we have in the global sustainability community, we have so much knowledge, ideas, and all the solutions that we need to tackle the global climate crisis. And with the Greentech Alliance, I hope to play a part in bringing that all together and enabling our members to be successful and to have the maximum environmental impact that they can have. So yeah, that's why I'm involved, and also really, really proud to be part of it, and very excited for what comes over the next 12 months or so.
Thank you so much, Emma. I'm back and I'm actually technically enabled. So I'll kick off with the presentation now to share a bit more about the vision of our alliance and also a bit more about what we are planning for the next few months and what are our KPIs. So essentially what happened 6-7 weeks ago was that together with the co-founders, we sat down and we noticed in one discussion after the other, the same kind of challenges that companies were facing from the green tech sphere. Companies were saying that they're losing clients. Companies were saying that they're losing the opportunities to get funding. They had their term sheets being pulled. And this obviously led to a lot of them considering the challenge as something that could stop their business, could lead them to actually leave maybe their company or also be required to let some people go. We got quite frustrated because we believe that climate change is a battle we all need to do together, and we all need to address simultaneously with all of our efforts and all of our business models. So what we ended up deciding was that instead of us competing or on a market that is quite challenged by the current economic circumstances, it's better for us to put our heads together and find a way to work together. The second challenge that we decided to tackle was the threat to transparency and impact. What happened, unfortunately, in the last few months on the market is that, of course, there's been a lot of entrants, but there's been also a lot of companies starting without a lot of scientific knowledge in the background. And why this is a problem is because there's a lot of importance of us following the science in order to create some solutions that really would be effective for our planet. A final challenge that we decided to look at and also pushed us to create the Greentech Alliance was the need for unified effort to battle climate change. This is not any industry. This is an industry that requires people to work together. It's not about creating competition. It's not about copying someone's invention to be able to benefit financially for yourself. It's about finding a way for us to put together our heads and our solutions so that they complement each other and lead to the outcome that all of us are seeking to get to. What we decided, and I'm on slide 5 now, was that we're going to put together companies that are focused on a few particular topics. We wanted companies that are focused on reducing the environmental impact of the companies or the individuals on our wonderful planet. We wanted companies that were able to help with new ways to perform activities and essentially are able to be quite active in shaping the ways we purchase things, shaping the ways we do certain activities, but the more environmentally friendly way. We also looked at companies that are focused particularly on balancing planet, profit, and people. This golden triangle is something that we sometimes forget, but from all the applications that we've gotten, it was quite clear that this is not the case. And another aspect that we decided to focus on was awareness of greenwashing. It has been quite prominent in the last few months and years that greenwashing is also an opportunity for people to claim that they're green. We wanted to make sure that our members are focused on this and understand well that this is the case. So what happened was that on the 4th of May, we decided to set up our initiative. We decided to launch it, and the Greentech Alliance was born. We built the alliance with the focus and the idea to have a community, a meeting point for green tech companies and also for advisors from VC, media, science, and business who all together connected are able to find a way to push forward these companies and help them solve all the problems. How it essentially works is that we are putting together on one side a lot of green tech companies, and on the other side we have close to 170 advisors that are able to help the companies solve different issues, such as getting funding, getting access to media, getting access to businesses, for partnerships, and so on. Now I'm on slide 8, where I'm going to speak about the partners that we've decided to work with. So together with us on this mission are 5 incredible organizations, and we're so honored to be working with them. We work with Yale Open Lab, the climate change focused lab in Yale University in the US. We work together with Climate Kick, and in particular their accelerator for the DAC region. We work with Urban Impact, who actually are going to be the first ones to announce some exciting stories for their upcoming platform and how this is going to benefit the Greentech Alliance community. We're also partners with Change Now. Change Now is one of the most influential outlets in France and now spreading itself all across the world in terms of sustainability influencers and people with a lot of ears and experience in the sustainability field. We also work with St. Gallen Symposium, which is one of the most respected student-led organizations that is organizing an annual event that connects intellectuals, connects politicians, also a lot of people from corporate organizations that are able to influence the future of our planet significantly. So what is the Greentech Alliance? The Greentech Alliance is 5 things. It is global. We have over 100 and something nationalities in the member group. It is also accessible. We are not excluding anyone. As long as they fulfill the criteria, they're more than welcome to join. Doesn't matter if they're seed stage company, doesn't matter if they're Series A or well-established corporate. We focus on companies that work on green technology. This means that they need to be developing software or hardware that is addressing the issues behind climate change. We're also KPI driven. It's not just a chat room where you can meet some intelligent and committed to the climate change fight people. It's a place where you can actually meet and find ways to solve your issues with the help of the Alliance that connects you to people that can solve these issues from the advisory board. It is also focused on growth. We want to see companies that are members of the Alliance to go through the different stages of growth within their community and within their geography and beyond. Now I'm on slide 10, and I would like to share what the Greentech Alliance is not. The Greentech Alliance is not for startups and companies that are being set up as a side gig. It's not for companies that may be a hobby project. We have been incredibly honored to have all the support of the advisors and to have their commitment to actually donate their time on a monthly basis to help with the member companies. So it's really important that we respect this commitment and make sure that all the companies that are getting support are also the ones that are incredibly committed to the topic. The Greentech Alliance is also not a lobbying organization. We've been asked many times since we started if we're planning on starting to lobby governments to tell them about laws and so on. No, we don't have such agenda, and this is not something that we aim on achieving. There's plenty of other influential organizations that do that. The Greentech Alliance is also not exclusive. We don't want to have like a label that is only for people of certain geography, status, or kind of label. We believe that everyone should be invited to the table and everyone should be allowed to work effectively with us on pushing forward their own company. The Greentech Alliance is also not an acquisition channel. Every time we've onboarded a different company, we've told them quite openly that this is not for them to do sales, it's for them to find ways to solve their problems. And finally, the Greentech Alliance is not for the hype. We don't believe that sustainability is something that is there to be a fad for a few days, for a few months, for a few weeks. All of us that are working on this topic are truly committed and have been interviewing every single member that has joined us to make sure that they're also committed. So what we believe in is that everyone should be given an equal opportunity to work on this topic, but you really need to understand the semantics and the science in order to be included in our alliance. So what have we achieved since we launched? We launched a month and a few days ago, and we've already, I can proudly say, have over 200 startups onboarded. We have 170 advisors, and we have 10 partner organizations. I welcome you now in the chat on the live stream to write down your questions and include all the comments that you have with regards to, all the different aspects that I just mentioned, because it's really important that we find really incredible incredibly efficient and also adequate way to answer everything that is maybe a question mark still for you. So, some preliminary results. I would like to tell you that since we've launched the Alliance, we have been shocked by the amount of people that decided to join. We've received within 10 days, 100 applications. Within 20 days, 15 days, we were with 150 advisors that we invited. We explained what we're building. And we also got over 300 applications just a few days ago, and they've been piling up every single day since. Today is the launch event, and I think it's really important for you to know as members and also as people that have been, people that have been able to work since the beginning of the month with us on the Alliance to know what are the perks. So, what are the benefits for our members? The benefits for our members are quite a few. We have one-on-one advisor time. All of our advisors have committed on working together with us to essentially be able to answer all your questions and help you understand how you can solve big challenges that you face at the moment. Another thing, and it's going to be announced also at the end of the event, is that we have Greentech Alliance only content. What this means is that we have content that is specifically created for the Alliance, and it's exclusive. It starts from advisors giving ideas and advice on funding, sales, web marketing, and it also is coming in the shape and form of events. We are going to announce at the end of the event also quite a few events that are coming up in the next few weeks that again are only going to be available for people that have joined the community. Another incredibly important aspect is that we're going to have monthly challenge solving sessions. The idea is that if you're facing certain challenges at the moment, such as, for example, wanting to raise money and you cannot do that, wanting to access some corporate partners, wanting to connect to a sales expert that can tell you how your company can become more efficient with its sales strategy, you can get this with the monthly challenge solving sessions. And finally, the two extra perks that come are free access to conferences, competitions, and events, and also pre-launch product testing, which again is going to be announced as a first perk from the agenda tonight. So, our KPIs. What are our KPIs? We are going to be helping founders on our Alliance get money. We did already a survey with the Alliance members, and we noticed that quite a few of them are fundraising at the moment, and they've been challenged by the fact that not only COVID has been influencing them to not have access to certain investors, but also by the fact that some of the VCs that they had access to didn't necessarily have impact-related KPIs. Another important metric for us is reaching the next growth stage. What this means is that we would be essentially able to work together with the companies to allow them to move from one stage to the other. If they're seed, they can move to Series A. And this doesn't necessarily only mean funding, but it also means adopting all these operational capabilities and adding all these different aspects to your existence as a company that make you more prone to growth. And a final really important aspect is partnerships among members. We already have been informed about partnerships that have been formed thanks to members chatting to each other and learning about their different projects. We plan on further pushing this, and we plan on doing this at a pace that will be committing essentially every single month certain KPIs and certain milestones to be achieved. So, what is our vision? This is a really important part of the talk. From my perspective, I have been working on Plan A for the last 3 years, and I can tell you that working on climate change and working on making people and companies become more sustainable has been shockingly revolutionizing in terms of my own life, but also incredibly fulfilling experience. And it is because the people that work on a daily basis to fight climate change are so committed to the belief that a sustainable future means an inclusive future. A sustainable future means an opportunity for us to solve ill-organized societies that we might still have somehow. And this conviction, it has been for me enough of a convincing aspect of my work to allow me to understand that there's no better way I can spend my own time, but also there's no better way that I can expand some other people's network by opening up my own network. I feel incredibly honored to be able to work on the Greentech Alliance and to see this kind of response from all of you. I have so much respect for all the work that I've been observing over the last few weeks in every single conversation that I've had with some of the founders. And the commitment with which they speak about what they're doing shows me that really there's a big necessity for this kind of an initiative. And it's incredibly important for us to be able to work together rather than work against one another. This is not any industry. This is an industry that requires collaboration. It requires a lot of work between many people. And it means that all of us are actually really responsible for the future in our society. I'm so happy to be able to see so many of you here. And I would like to now ask maybe Simon and Hannah, who have been onboarding a lot of companies, to share a bit more about the experience of onboarding companies and tell about how they have been feeling once they've been speaking to people. And in the meantime, I'm gonna take care of the next part of our event.
Yeah, great. So Simon, do you want to start?
I can start.
Yeah.
I had extreme emotional and powerful experiences so far. There is the members I talked to, you basically. It's been really mind-blowing how much change and willingness to change there's out there. It often doesn't feel like it if you look outside and live basically, but by doing all these discussions and these onboarding sessions, it's so great to see this huge motivation and this vision of making a difference. And we all have our own ways, and we all do it in different ways. And so every session I had was enriching my life, enriching probably the Alliance. And this is what I'm looking for, to see all these different angles of solving one big issue together, climate change. What about you?
Yeah, I think I can just second that. I've been really, blown away by just like the breadth of our initiative and like how I've been on calls with people from Australia to Nigeria, to Germany, France, but like everywhere. It's been sort of the same spirit as Simon is saying. Everyone's believing in the change they're working on and believing on implementing it. And also, I feel like there's quite a strong confidence in that we can actually achieve change if we, work together. And I think it's no wonder that so many people signed up to our initiative so quickly without us doing any marketing. It's just that the right moment. It's just really my sense from speaking to you. Yeah, so thank you so much for believing in our mission and wanting to be part of it.
I'm going to jump in here. Hannah, thank you for sharing your experience of onboarding. And in case you missed that, the onboarding process, one member from our team calls every applicant that we get. If people go through a screening process, which is a survey you fill out when you apply to be a member, and then one person from our team will make a call with you and chat through with you. And that leads me to my first question. This is a question that has been submitted through the YouTube channel. We'll start with Simon, actually. This is somewhat relevant to our screening process. How do you define Greentech, and how do we, as Greentech Alliance, protect the organization and keep our, I guess you would say, authenticity to avoid greenwashing?
Well, obviously we can't help or stop the world from doing greenwash, but we can help raise the bar in working together with members who have climate change mitigation or solving issues deriving from climate change within their company core. So at the very heart, doesn't mean you have to be non-profit. You can be for-profit, it doesn't matter, but the heart of your business should include and address one specific part of climate change mitigation. And that's one thing we really value and look for. And after that process you just described, we will always go into a personal contact, right? So we talk to people and start vetting not only the information given to us, but also the people behind it. And this is our first layer of making sure that we only work together with true green tech and clean tech companies.
Okay. Your question? Thank you. Yeah, I think that was good. I think that was quite clear. The next person I'm going to ask a question to is JJ, who's sitting next to me. So we'll have to swap between mute on each of us. There might be a slight delay. JJ, my question for you is the real value, one of the biggest values about this network we've created, about the Alliance, is the advisory network. How do members get access to this network of advisors? And tell us a little bit about the advisors and what's the process between being a member and getting to them. I'll just go on mute so we don't go.
Thank you, Andrew. That's a great question. First of all, I would say in any case, except for, it's not related to the Greentech Alliance, but if you want to get in contact with advisors or want to get advice, is that to be so concise as possible, meaning that you have a very clear request. So what we do at the Greentech Alliance, when we onboard a company, a founder who becomes a member, we survey them. We ask them, what is your main priority? What are your biggest challenges? And what's the topic you really need help with? And based on that, we have a survey, and then there's two results possible. One can be, for example, 20 members have filled in, we really need help on sales. In that case, what we can do is reach out to one of our advisors who have a very good track record in sales or partnerships and ask them if they were willing to do a webinar, to do an interactive workshop. Later on, we'll announce actually one that's happening next week, but that is one process. So it's a one-to-many. Another one is a one-to-one. How do we do that? Like I said, it's really important to be concise. So we do the survey, but to be concise and to know what we're actually asking, we do that survey regularly. So we're going to do that monthly or at least bi-monthly to know what the members need help with and to know where we can help with. When a member has a very clear and concise request that matches one of our advisors, and keep in mind we have around 170 plus advisors at the moment and it's counting. So we try to cover almost every aspect of the business, not only the business, but also the research side and the data side of things. What we then do is we contact a couple advisors and ask them if they are willing to help this company. There's always a request first to the advisor. There's never going to be an instant flow of members towards advisors. The advisors have committed their time and they're donating their time, but it's very important to safeguard them a little bit. There are some advisors on there that if we open them directly to the members, I think they will be flooded with either pitch decks or release or requests for press releases and such. So that's the process. What advisors are bringing is either knowledge, is network, is willing to help, And I said it already, we try to address almost every topic. And I think, Andrew, is that covering the basis of the Alliance and how we create value?
Yes, JJ, thank you. One thing I will go back over on your point, and this is really important for all the existing members and all the new members. JJ mentioned the word concise. When you fill out the survey, when you share your needs and wants with us, the more information you can include and the more specific you can be, the better job we can do of matching you with the right advisor. We live in a time where everyone is time poor, but if you can put a little bit more, the more effort you put into your applications, the better results you're going to get with being matched to an advisor. So we have a few more questions coming from the audience. What else have we got here? I'm going to throw one over to Hannah or Simon. We have a question here. Really, what's the business behind Greentech Alliance? How do we operate, and how do we see things operating in the future? Hannah, would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure. So the Greentech Alliance is not a for-profit business. It's not been set up to generate revenue. It's a grassroots green tech community, project in its essence, and we're trying to bring people together who are working on implementing green tech change through startups. So we, as the founding members, we're actually still in the process of finalizing the legal side of the organization, but it's definitely not going to be a business. We are, however, open to looking into potential sponsoring or collaborating with other organizations to see if we can, secure a budget to actually also implement parts of the Alliance that might require some funding, but our main focus is not on, generating revenue and big funding, but actually just peer-to-peer support in its essence, globally.
Anna, I think you led into a really interesting point there, which is about the community, which I might talk to Emma about. So, while the advisors is a really valuable part of what we do, just as valuable, if not more, is about the community. And that's a Slack channel that we have. So we have a private Slack channel that members and advisors can access, and a lot of information and knowledge exchange goes on. Would you like to explain a little bit about kind of what makes this Slack channel different than anything else that's out there, and what sort of what sort of involvement do we look for from members?
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, as you said, it's a very active channel. So we have a number of different channels within that where people can go with certain requests. For example, if you want to set up a partnership, if you have some news to share, if you have jobs to post, if you have if you want help, for example, with getting in touch with press, and many more. So we have lots of different channels which are all targeted to certain things. And over the past month, we've already seen a lot of activity there, with, of course, members posting things that they want to share and get support with. But on the other hand, there's always then a lot of members commenting on that, giving their own experience, really sharing their expertise. And that's something also that that's like the core of the Alliance. When you have an issue or when you have something to share and you go onto that channel and post it, what you want is to get as much feedback as you possibly can. And you start that off, you kind of pay that forward by already giving your experience. And from the onboarding calls that I've had, I see that that's exactly what the members that we have really want to give. So everyone has asked, okay, what can I give? Like, what do you expect from me? And this is exactly it. And we're also working as the founders to promote the members as much as possible through those channels. So we have a spotlight channel where I think we've just posted today the first spotlight on one of our members. So we'll also be helping to promote our members through that. We do have advisors in the Slack channel as well, so not all of them are there, but some of the more active advisors are also sharing their expertise there.
Thank you, Emma. I'm going to keep it in the room and ask Hannah a quick question. We're existing online in 2 separate rooms at the moment. We have members all around the world tuning in. Question is, will Greentech Alliance go offline, and what might our next 6 to 12 months look like?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I really, really hope that globally we will get into a place where we can host bigger offline events again. And I think this is a bigger topic that we have no control over, sort of referring to the global pandemic we're just living through. But we definitely have the plan to host offline events. And we are also hoping to develop this concept of local chapters. And this is something that has come from the onboarding calls, is that a lot of people have asked and actually offered to set up local chapters and nurture and increase the collaboration of green tech startups in their specific region. So we hope to see a myriad of different events happening on and offline over the next 12 months, on a global scale, but then also in the local chapters that we hope to set up.
Thank you, Hannah. We're coming up to the end of our question time. We've got about 5 minutes left before the rest of our program continues. We have our special guests joining us for an hour-long panel. I'll wrap up with maybe 1 or 2 more questions. One I think I might answer here, which is if you're not a Greentech founder, and this is a thing, most of our members, these are people that are C-level executives or senior management or founders in companies. So if you're tuning in and you're an eager student, you're an employee, you're interested, whatever it is, you really love what we're doing and you're keen to get involved, shoot us an email through the website or through our message, through the message system on the app. And that's the same thing for advisors. We've got a few people on the question board there saying that they want to get involved as a pitch doctor or whatever. If you want to be an advisor, you want to get involved in any way, shoot us a message through the website. And what we must apologize for is we've got so many applications in the last few weeks, and as you can see, it's a very detailed process we go through to vet everyone. So it can take a few weeks for new members to be approved. If you haven't heard from us yet and you have applied, please be patient. We let everyone know whether you've been accepted or not. And it's just our team is working through all of the applications. So we'll wrap up with, I think, one last question. We have a question here. Oh yeah, okay, so we have a question which is, how are we paid? That's us 6 members here. So we are not paid, we're actually all volunteers. And just like the community we're trying to build, which survives off the generosity of community members helping each other, we are giving our time and our effort to build this ourselves. So any other questions coming through YouTube right now? I'll turn to JJ.
Regards to, are you getting paid? In regards, are you getting paid? No, this is a passion project for us all. The way we're getting paid is by getting so much energy and rewards by talking to the members, for the ones who are not on the Slack, also to the advisors. It's incredible to see only the intros already, where people are doing amazing things with technology and data. And that is where our reward comes from.
I would like to invite the wonderful panel that we have kindly invited, and they have kindly accepted. I would like to present to you Amy from Sifted. And Amy, I would leave the floor to you so that you can take it from here.
Hi everyone. Sorry if I just caused some sort of technical drama.
It's been ongoing.
I'm Amy Lewin. I'm Deputy Editor of Sifted. Sifted is a new-ish media platform that covers European startups and tech, and we're increasingly interested in covering sustainability companies as a personal kind of, an interest of the team, but also because there's obviously an increasing awareness of it, and lots of our readers are interested in it. So let me also introduce the panel who I will be speaking to. So I think we have Chris is coming up on my screen. I'm not sure who you're seeing.
Hello.
This is Chris. He is the founder of Carbon 13, which is a venture builder focused on tackling climate change. And he also teaches innovation and entrepreneurship at Cambridge's Judge Business School. I'm not sure who's going to come up next, but let's hope Mujan is going to pop up. She's co-founder of the non-profit community Women in AI, and she also set up Startup Sesame and Silk Road Startup, which is an international conference for the Iranian startup ecosystem. I think I now have Barbara on my screen, who's the founder and CEO of Interstellar Lab, which is a company which plans to design and build bioregenerative villages on Earth and beyond. She's also been involved in launching the French startup support group / accelerator / VC firm, The Family, the Deep Tech Conference Halley tomorrow, and the VC firm Hardware Club. And finally with Daniel, who is a comms expert and journalist who's currently helping build the Climate Fund for Ecosia and is also an advisor to the Greentech Alliance. So there we go. So I'm going to start with cracking on with a big, massive question, but a useful one to start with, which is how do you all actually define what green tech even is? I'm going to start with Barbara because you're still up on my screen and might be still up on other people's screen.
So first question is, how do I define the word green tech?
Yeah.
Technology that is helping everything that is green. I'm kidding, but no, but yeah, for me, everything that is around green tech is basically making the connection between technology and nature, and most especially the biosphere we're living in. So it's technology that is applied to combining, biosphere, helping the biosphere.
Okay, and also I want to throw in as well, kind of how is green tech perceived perhaps in some of the industries that you all panelists work in, whether that's kind of the media, academia, the VC world. Chris, do you want to go?
Well, I suppose the way I look at entrepreneurship is that it's a tool that society has invented in order to solve a certain class of problem. And there's a certain class of problem around the future existence of humanity, around biodiversity and the climate emergency, and so green tech, from my perspective, is sort of the rise of an emergency effort to use this tool of entrepreneurship to try to keep this planet habitable.
Okay, Daniel?
What is green tech? For me, I try to keep answers and definitions as simple as possible, and that's also something we are going to be trying with the World Fund that we are establishing now with Ecosia. So I think the simplest answer is every kind of tech that is reducing greenhouse gases. So if a technology is able to either sequester or to reduce emissions, that's green tech.
Okay, and Mujan, do you think, is it all about kind of the technology and the outcome itself, or can kind of the way businesses actually operate be green in another way? You know, is there a kind of broader definition of green tech that's kind of maybe not quite so specifically challenging kind of climate problems, etc., but is at least not kind of being negative? I don't know. What do you think?
Sure. So just to complete the previous great definitions, I would add actually the basically eventually we could, with all this tech that we are developing and building, to curb the negative impact that humans, interventions on the planet have imposed. So it can be the emission that we have, it can be the pollution that we have made, it can be anything that has negative impact on the planet. So this is not only, for example, just about how we do business, it's more about how we transform our mindset and how we can have like future reverse planning. So coming from the future and see what was, for example, the future we want to have in order to have the business today and to anticipate more challenges in the future. So one of the elements in, for example, Greentech is modeling the earth, modeling the environment, how we could have a better understanding of what's happening on the earth so we could eventually avoid it and keep it, healthy and green and as we want.
Okay, great. So it seems like, especially maybe Barbara is an excellent example of this, of kind of really kind of imaginative, big, enormous, some people might say kind of crazy solutions out there. Do you think, is there a lack of imagination around Greentech at the moment? Do we need more kind of Elon Musk, maybe not, him exactly as a role model, but that kind of like moonshot thinking? Barbara, what do you think? I got in the word moon there, so I feel like this is one for you. Can you hear me okay? Okay, I'm not sure Barbara can hear me, so Mujan, do you want to answer that one?
Sure, yeah, I think that's definitely a question for Barbara, but I would try my best. I think that in general, over the past years, we have seen a huge investment and at least awareness around Greentech. And we've seen more and more industries starting to invest, explore, and try, solutions and technologies. I believe that I think the biggest challenge is for industries who are like heavily invested on those traditional, let's call it coal, for example, or gas or oil industries, that it's very costly for them to change. Even if they want to do it, it's super hard for them because there have been years and years of investment on their products, on their infrastructure, and it's very hard for them to move. So for example, let's take it as a shipping industry. I think it's very hard and costly for them to come up with solutions. And yeah, I think that can be one of the barriers that we have. And that if you, for example, look at packaging, food packaging, we have so many great ideas. There are so many great startups out there, but the problem will be scaling and adopting, how to change and do the transition from the previous solutions to the newer, cleaner ones.
Okay, perfect. Chris, you've been nodding your head a lot. Do you want to add something?
Well, I think this transition that was mentioned is, we just have to recognize how the history of business tells us it's not going to be possible for corporates to make this change. Corporates don't have the ability. If we look at the history of that kind of capitalism, to make this kind of transition. So entrepreneurship and green tech play a critical role in figuring out what's the new landscape of business that's compatible with continued existence on this earth.
And do you think it's a case that startups and kind of entrepreneurial types is the best way for us all to kind of move forward, to build partnerships with those big clunky corporates who won't be able to change themselves, or do they need to go it alone, or kind of how do you see that playing out?
Well, I think it's going to be important to develop startups that are selling solutions to those corporates, but with the recognition that ultimately disruption is necessary, right? That just relying on the corporates to achieve this transition is it's not likely to do the job, right? We're going to need the wave of green tech businesses that are being started now and have been started over recent times to effectively come up with ways to replace the old ways of doing business.
Okay, Barbara, can you hear me now? Nope. Okay, Daniel, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I was also nodding with
I can hear it.
Oh, sorry, Barbara. Let's come back to you in a second. Daniel, do you want to go first?
If you want to talk and if you can hear us now, Barbara, feel free to step in. But it seems like that you have some issues there.
Just looking I'm a lot of trouble, a lot of problem actually hearing you out. Like all your voices are like sorry, but that my connection is good. So I know what's happening. That you asked, like, I heard some part of the question which is about need like and people with a big vision to try to solve the problems we're facing on Earth right now. I think the answer is yes. We need people that have a lot of determination, that are able to question the status quo, that have a background that have nothing to do with the industry they're trying to bring solutions, because they really new approach to solve problems and find solutions. And in those times, right now, we not only need expertise, but another perspective on the problems, and we need people from a lot of different fields. So yes, more entrepreneurs, bold vision, and more investors to support them. So a generation of Elon Musk type of entrepreneur, that will be awesome, only focusing on the Earth, maybe on other planets as well, but that's much needed.
Barbara, I'm really sorry. I don't know if it's just me, but I can't hear you very well. So I'm wondering if you could try something different with your connection, perhaps. I'll go to Daniel for now. It's a bit hard to hear. Sorry. Daniel?
You sound like out of space. You've been, Amy, you've been asking for the creativity and what we see here in Berlin during the last years, and I don't think that it's only in Berlin, it's also in all the other startup hubs, that creativity is kind of peaking in the green tech business. So there are many founders who have been founding companies and startups in the years up to 2015, I would say, that are not green tech, but something like the year 2015 seems to me, when I'm looking back, like the year when things started to change, and that founders started to try to found companies that are trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And that's also a reason, and this is, we investors, we call it deal flow. So this deal flow increased really a lot, and the quantity, but also the quality of founders popping up. And in the same time, the urgency, yeah, we know what we're talking about. The urgency is as urgent as never before. And so this will also see in the field of investors many funds to be founded now. And I hope very much we also, like in the condition of setting up our fund that will be named World Fund, Ecosia World Fund. I see a bright future for green tech startups. I see more money flowing in. I see better techs, better founders. Yeah, but I think the crucial problem will be how can we get this money needed to invest in those technologies.
Okay, and from your point of view as someone investing, and for you as well, Chris, investing into these companies, what more do you want to see from maybe some people who are listening in to this? You know, what's kind of lacking or missing at the moment in the kind of green tech entrepreneur community, maybe especially in Europe? Like, what kind of I guess kind of bars do you want to set for people to aim for?
Yeah, so it's mainly two things I see that have to change, and I see them changing. The one thing is that institutional investors and also venture capitalists not only invest in companies that can prove that they will make profit, but that also can prove that they can make a climate impact. That's one thing. And the other thing is, from the founder's perspective, and that's not only applying, that it's not something I would only like to apply to green tech founders. It's the way they tell the story that has to be improved. And it's hard to tell a story about a problem that's so intangible. And that's something founders have to learn, not only to like say, okay, Armageddon is in front of us, but also to have the ability to convince investors that it's not only important, but that it's also an impact they will make with their money, profit and impact. So storytelling and the circumstances or the conditions, they are changing, but it has to be faster.
Okay, amazing. Let's return to storytelling in a bit, but Chris, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I'd agree with Daniel, and all I'd add is ambition. I think it's very natural. Being an entrepreneur is kind of scary, and it's very natural that that people say, okay, well, if I can reach some kind of business model that supports me and my family and my my career, if you like, then that's success. But I think in the emergency that we're facing, we have to be from the start saying a local. People have always said think global, act local, and there's a lot to that. But given the scale of the problem, there needs to be that world-spanning ambition and that willingness to just say, if I'm going to fight climate change, if I'm going to try to protect biodiversity, then it's going to have to be a moonshot. Effectively, I'm going to have to go for something really with a very high potential for impact.
Okay, and Imogen, you're obviously involved deeply in the AI community, which I think maybe can sometimes be overly ambitious or slightly think it's capable of more than it, some of these companies really are. But you're also obviously involved in the kind of green tech community. Would you agree with that? Do you think there's, maybe you don't agree with me, but like a lot of ambition on one side and a sort of slight, lack of it on the other?
Sure, I totally agree with all of you. What I would add is that, it's super difficult and I think challenging for founders and startups to raise money or as Daniel mentioned, to basically convince their investor that for an intangible problem, they could actually, find a solution, which, it can be in years or it can be really imaginary. But I would say again, as Chris mentioned, I think being bold and being ambitious and being really clear in their vision is very important. And we cannot really deal with the global change and climate change as a local problem. We really need to see it as a global problem, and we should definitely put that on the agenda from the very beginning. And when you look at it that way, going to market would be the biggest challenge for them. How these startups will scale, how can they make people or users of their product to actually shift to their product, which is, I would say again, this is one of the biggest barriers, that we have so many amazing green tech startups out there, but it's very hard to replace the previous solution that people are used to with the new one. And that's, I think that it can, if they focus on that, I think investors also will be ready to invest, because they will say their money will have a return on investment too. So I know it's a very hard and tough position, but I think that definitely ambitious is the first thing.
Okay, and which companies are a good example of that? Who would you say is a kind of green tech company that's and has kind of reached that level of ambition or thought kind of globally? And I know this is an investor trope, but thought globally from day one.
I would like to name Plan A now, because of course it's very close when we are here at the panel from the Greentech Alliance, and Lubomila is one of the founders or the founder of Plan A. I think this is also a very ambitious plan to establish a software that is helping corporates and all companies, hopefully all over the world, to improve their footprint. So this could be a huge effect. So this is also something that is thought very big. There's some other startups as well. Sorry to have this Berlin perspective, but something like Climate Labs, they are also developing a tool for individuals to help them to improve their footprint. Then there's, of course, also maybe Climeworks from Switzerland, trying to sequester CO2 emissions. And maybe last but not least, Ecosia, that was founded 10 years ago and will be having planted 100 million trees next month.
Amazing. I just want to everyone listening, we are taking questions. So if you put questions, I think, in the chat, they're getting kind of sent through to me. So if you do have any questions for the panel, just put them in whenever, and I'll be slipping them into the conversation. So do that. So one question that we've had is, what do you think is and this comes back to the point about storytelling, what do you think is the biggest communication or marketing challenge for green tech startups? Daniel, do you want to start, because you're still on screen, and then I'll go to everyone else?
Yeah, what's the biggest challenge? I think a few were named already. It's one thing you've been mentioning is the challenge to replace established CO2 bad products that are really destroying our planet. To really break with the manner everybody has, with what is established already. From the marketing perspective, it's also something that has to change in the minds of investors, that they have this reflex, okay, when it's making an impact, then it can't earn money. And that's totally wrong. Even if you look at funds that are already committed to impact companies, they're performing better than those who only try to make money. That's maybe something that has to change, and hopefully will change, and that will make it also much easier for green tech startups to get funding.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think, what does it take to get over this kind of, oh, if it has a positive impact, it can't possibly have as good returns as something which, is just out there to, do what it likes?
Well, I think anyone who's, so the first thing to say is that the value proposition has to solve a customer's problem better than their existing alternatives, right? So, if you're just going out and saying, I've got something, it helps the climate, it's not quite as good as the normal way of doing things, but it helps the climate. I think that's a very tough story to tell. It's got to be your value proposition has to be something that's actually better than the existing alternatives, and also replaces an emitting technology. I mean, my go-to example, or one of my go-to examples, is always Impossible Burger. If you know the story behind Impossible Burger, the founder very much had changing the land use pattern across the entire planet in mind when tackling, inventing this meat substitute. The team deliberately said, we're not going to take the obvious route of starting with a niche in the vegan market and then we're going to expand from there. Instead, we're going to, from the start, work on our value proposition until it's ready to take on meat in the mainstream market, because we believe that's going to have the biggest impact on carbon. And I think that's a real role model for green tech startups to think about, is to say, okay, how do we actually bypass I'm not saying don't sell to people who are already very energized by the climate emergency, but I am saying be aware from the start that if your ambition has to run ahead of those people.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. And do you have anything to add on this kind of how to tell a good story? And I wonder if there's anything from the kind of AI world as well, which is perhaps useful here, because that's another thing that's quite enormous and quite hard for the average person to kind of get their head around, in the same way that climate change or the climate emergency is. What are some maybe good examples, or just some things you see kind of working quite well for companies trying to get attention, get their message across, make an impact, make waves with the right kind of people?
Sure. I mean, coming out of like just the tech part of it, I think that when you go more into the tech part of it, it's actually less attractive when you want to tell a good story. But tech, or let's say like if you run a machine learning or AI algorithm on your product, that should be a tool to actually augment your story's impact, right? So for instance, as I mentioned, one of the basic and the core elements of how we can do a better, better job in our products is modeling the environment, right? So there are so many green tech startups based on AI and machine learning that they are working on how get a sense out of all these, changes in the planet, and it's, for example, forecasting and predicting Earth's behavior is very difficult. So this is one of the biggest challenges. So if we know what is happening on Earth and we can know how to tackle that, that can, help us to solve the problem. And the story comes from what are you proposing to people to actually have fun or enjoy doing that. I want to give a really good example about how people can be really engaged in doing something. For instance, I think it's about 2 years or something, there some beaches that have started to create this beautiful, let's say, rubbish places that people can fill it up, and when it's full, it's a nice fish, it's a big fish. It's very visual. We can see it, like how it is, the amount of trash that can be on the beach, but actually you're creating some art piece. It is also some initiatives that some tech conferences started to do that. At the end of for example, day 2 of the conference, you see the amount of plastic glasses that we have used over the 2 conferences that we have been there. And if things become visual, people are more related to it. So AI by itself is not basically the sensitive part of it, but it can give us more info, what we can do and what it can be done. For instance, a good example is a startup, I don't remember the name, but they are saying where we can plant more trees with data visualizations and the machine learning running to know where is the biggest impact of actually absorbing the emissions, so we can basically reduce the cost of reducing the cost of planting trees and also having a bigger impact. And this is running, for example, on machine learning. But the story you tell behind it is how you put the whole, package together and show people what's the impact, to really show them how it works with nice dashboards, let's say, and nice presentation.
I totally agree with that from my journalist point of view as well. The amount of companies who get in touch and say they're an AI-powered something, and my first thing is like, are you really using AI? And also, that doesn't make you stand out. Whereas, as you said, the kind of what that achieves is a much more compelling story, basically.
Totally.
We've had another question from the audience, which I guess comes back to the impossible burger point. How do we change consumer behavior? Do we need to outcompete all the established companies before consumers change? Or is perhaps changing consumer behavior, this is me butting in, is that the wrong kind of question to ask? Daniel, do you want to go first?
How to change behavior, is this mainly the question? How to change behavior of people? I think Chris answered it mainly already. You just have to have a great product or a great service that is better than the one already established, and then you will win. If I'm allowed, I would like to add one storytelling piece. Also referring to this, because listening to you, I just want to recommend everybody who is listening 2 books, and I think every founder can learn so much out of it. The one book is Thinking Slow and Thinking Fast from Daniel Kahneman. It's describing so well how irrational everybody is making decisions, and that includes investors. I can tell you that you can have a great product, the best idea, but if you are not able to sell it, to tell the story right, you won't get the funding. On the other hand, I have seen too many people also not having a great idea, great product, but great storytellers, they get funding. And the second book is it freshly came out from Scott Cooper. He's partner at Andreessen Horowitz, Secrets of Sand Hill Road. I think she's really telling everything you need to know about venture capital, and Greentech founders should really know what boxes they have to tick when they are trying to get money. And he's also saying storytelling is the crucial ability you have to have.
Fantastic. All right, we've got another question then from the audience, which is, how do we as a Greentech community get more visible towards governments and policymakers to really change the game? Mujan? How do we make friends and influence the right people?
Well, hopefully, and I mean, fortunately, we have so many. Recently, for example, we had this report of European Commission, I think in March came out, or in February came out, that they are putting the agenda on, for example, investment banking, that they need to diversify their portfolios and having, a percentage of investment on Greentech. They declare this percentage of their investments, and they're putting that on the agenda, and eventually this is becoming something that they want to have, have it implemented everywhere in the investments. And this comes from the top. This comes from the governmental institutions, and this is, in my point of view, is very important. So they already are sensitive about that. For instance, there's a race to zero initiative by European Union. United Nations, and this is, for example, saying that the ambition is to have 30% of the world's GDP involved in basically reducing the effects on the climate change and so on. So these are great things that's happening. Of course, that's I think the regular people, companies, and the let's say like academia and everybody should be involved in it. But regulatory governments are already supporting. For example, one of the barriers we have is, apart from regulatory, is the market and the investment that we need to shift. Businesses in France, there is, for example, subsidies from the government. Government's initiative is to help people to buy electric vehicles. So they give a grant so people can, afford it. When we come to, for example, change, equity is a barrier. So the low-income people, how can they afford to shift from the previous, let's say, polluting solutions to a cleaner one? This is very important. So governments can really have a big impact in that, to helping people to change.
Amazing. Chris, do you want to add something?
Well, with respect to the questioner, I'm not sure it's the right question. I think it's very natural. One of the things that I'm so pleased with the Greentech Alliance for is that we don't have time to change the political systems of the world to be more climate friendly, and then we solve the problems through different products and solutions. These things are going to have to happen in tandem. If we concentrate on creating great companies, and that means companies that really do a fantastic job for customers, then that's what will change the answer. I heard Christiana Figueres put it very well. She said, it's by solving this problem that we will change ourselves as a species, as humanity, to be able to live on this planet, rather than thinking, okay, first we have to fix ourselves, and then by fixing ourselves, we'll stop being so silly about the environment and emitting so much carbon. We have to say, well, let's solve the problem, and the 1,000 ships that the Greentech Alliance is launching or is helping to launch can make a difference to the way that humanity sees itself. I think this comes actually back to the storytelling as well, but I'll shut up.
Amazing. Daniel?
I think was great answers. I have nothing to add. I love to talk, but I have nothing to add right now.
Amazing. Well, don't worry, because we have another very interesting question from the audience. Keep them coming. How can we use the momentum behind the COVID-19 crisis to mobilize the community for limiting the effects of more destructive climate crisis and give an impulse to green businesses? So I guess we're in this kind of dangerous situation where public transport has sort of not being used as much, and people were jumping into their own cars, and but we're not flying as much, so it could kind of go either way. How can green tech businesses kind of use this moment of, I don't know, I live in London, I walk around the parks at the moment and I'm like, has the air ever been this clean? Have the birds ever been singing this much? How do we kind of jump on that feeling that people must have, and yeah, kind of drive change right now? Daniel?
Yeah. I think it's already happening. When I'm talking to people, I realize that they say, okay, this pandemic is making more tangible what's coming up during the next years and decades. So at the beginning, of course, we all think we've been afraid that nobody will be talking ever again about climate crisis because the pandemic is so huge. It was a wall. No journalist was also writing about it anymore. But it turns out, and I think it's not only something I'm hoping for, but to me, it seems that it turns out that people are more aware how fragile this planet is, how fragile we as human beings are, and how we have to stick together. So I'm also very happy for the Green Deal that Ursula von der Leyen is sticking to it. So no step back. And also when talking to managers of consulting companies, they say we have learned that not for every little call we have to fly from, I don't know, Berlin to Paris or from Paris to Munich. Just to meet for 2 hours, it's possible through a call. We definitely won't restart flying to those meetings all over again. So I think there will be a positive impact when we are out of this time of pandemics. And yeah, I also hope that people won't forget that our planet is fragile.
Chris?
Well, I think it comes back to the storytelling point. The way that these emotional, irrational creatures, that's us, understand what's going to happen next is through storytelling, right? Is through saying, how do I think the world works? And it's tied into certain archetypes and certain stories that we have heard over and over since we were young. Now the lockdown, the pandemic has given us a whole new set of reference points, unprecedented reference points, as you know, is the word of the last 3 months. And when we're telling the story of what is possible and what humanity can achieve, now we're able to say, okay, things that we previously thought could not happen, changes that we thought we could not make, changes we thought people were not willing to make. Actually, they are willing to make it if they have the incentive. And so from any entrepreneur, a green tech or any other type of entrepreneur, when you're thinking about how do we get consumers to change their behavior, well, by telling them the right story. And what's so wonderful, or okay, I shouldn't use that word, but what suddenly has burst into existence is a whole new set of interesting stories to tell.
Amazing. Mood?
I loved actually what Daniel and Chris both said, and I want to get back to the storytelling as well. I think that the story that all of us told us, we're telling ourselves actually before the pandemic was, no, there's no way, I don't take planes, I just do all my meetings, or I do virtual conferences, and it's important to meet and so on. That was the previous story. And since the pandemic happened, and myself, I saw it like how it totally changed my lifestyle. So I was, for example, myself going to a new, conference or country every month, and it was like a constant, travel and lifestyle that I had. And I saw so easily it proved us that we can change if we want, and if we need, we can change. So I think this pandemic was a great opportunity to open our eyes, to open the eyes of our governments, and how we can be really strict for certain things. When they were showing the pictures, for example, of Delhi, Peking, that we could see the blue sky, people were happy about it. So how easily we can contribute to a beautiful city, beautiful world. that constantly being, like a machine working on a daily basis, we don't have time to think about it. We just need a pause to really see and reflect on what had been happening to our planet and act well.
Amazing. I love this optimism. I'm going to slightly bring it down, which is one of you mentioned earlier, the kind of challenge around how do we make green tech sort of available to everyone? How do we make sure that this isn't just a thing that kind of wealthier people or people from certain backgrounds or in certain areas kind of can take advantage of? Do you have any thoughts around that? How green tech startups maybe should be thinking around those issues, around making sure that the solutions they're building are for a diverse, in all senses of the word, audience and have impact on a diverse group of people too. Mujan, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, like other, tech industries, green tech also suffers from lack of diversity. It's not only about gender, it's not only about not having enough women, it's really minority groups. And for instance, if I just want to give you some numbers, we have, I think, in the green tech and renewable energy, we have like 20% women, and most of them are in the sales and administrative roles, meaning that they are not in the leadership. And if you think of, for example, advancement of technologies, having more automations, I don't know, let's say having more AI and all these new technologies, or seeing, for example, the shocks like pandemic, that people lose their jobs. So these minority groups, they get more hit by crises like this. And one of the best things is to just create more green tech jobs, green jobs, and that can prevent the massive unemployment waves. When it comes to startups, it's very tricky because one startup at some point, they need to survive, especially when we are in a crisis like COVID-19, to really keep their, cash income coming. And sometimes diversity maybe goes to a corner, and choosing on, who to hire, and for example, to let their, for example, I don't know, marketing person go versus their tech person. If the tech person is a guy, so of course, they lose a percentage of their diversity. So it's very difficult, but if we start, focusing from the very beginning, investing in that, hiring people who are more diverse, it can bring us good. It can bring us more perspective, and it can help us to build better, equitable products. Because there are so many products, especially tech products, they suffer from bias, and that can be only done if your engineering team are mixed. You cannot do it only with what we call it in AI, the white man syndrome, that you just, put the same profiles, mostly white men, to program that product. It's not going to solve the problem for everybody.
Sure. And Chris, what do you think? I guess beyond the kind of makeup of a team themselves, but maybe also this, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, this challenge around sometimes these kind of solutions can seem like a luxury to people. I'm thinking also in food, for example, if you think buying organic food in so many places is still more expensive than not, how can startups think around those challenges when they're building and designing products?
It's a really important question. It's a really challenging question. We know that if you're trying to get a business going, you'd like your customers to be rich people, so Europeans or North Americans or corporates who have money, right? So there's always a pull there, right? That oh well, I should sell to those people and concentrate on value propositions that are going to be attractive to those people. So that's kind of as you put it, the downer here. What's the good news? The good news is so many of the stories here, of the stories that are going to win in this space, are going to be disruptive stories. And what does disruption mean? Let's be very precise and say disruption means bringing simpler, less complicated, and by the way, less carbon emitting value propositions into existence. And simpler means cheaper. Cheaper means more accessible, right? If you think about value propositions that are going to, so let's think about the circular economy, right? Circular economy is incredibly important for green tech, right? Corporates talk about the circular economy a lot because they really like one half of the circle, which is the circle that reduces waste in their supply chains or reduces cost in their supply chains. Corporates don't spend so much time talking about the other half of the circle, which is the part of the circle that makes people consume less, have less stuff, own less physical, tangible stuff that causes emissions, right? So it's going to be entrepreneurs that are going to fill out that half of the circle, the part of the circle that involves value propositions that are just attacking existing corporate revenue streams, right? Existing businesses' revenue streams, because they're just not about producing and owning. So it's difficult for any individual entrepreneur. It's tough because how do you can't say I must start a business that ticks every single box, right? But looking from the system level, we can say, well, on the system level, disruption means accessible to the people. Disruption means taking stuff out of production compared to the old way. So there's some potential good news here.
Okay, Daniel, do you want to add anything? And then I really am going to ask a positive question.
Very good. Yeah, I also think it's a difficult question, and I tried to answer very short and split it into 3 parts. So diversity is not only about women, it's also about people of color. In Germany, we have the people with migration background. That's how we call Germans who have, like I, for example, not a German name, but parents came from another country. It's also about pride people. So, and I think we have no alternative but quotas. I think, I mean, we're trying for so many decades already to reach diversity, and I think people will only understand when we really have it through quotas. They will really understand that it's an enrichment, that people are bringing more value, more ideas, even more profit. But it shouldn't be about profit, but it's just, I heard so many people, and the complete board is white German, talking about diversity, but talking is not helping us. And it's also not helping when 20% of the people are women who are in positions not being able to decide how. So I think quotas is something we shouldn't avoid. I don't like quotas, but I think it's the only way we can start with diversity. Second thing, not only rich people should profit from organic food, but also people everywhere, and also not so rich people. I think one example is plant-based diets are healthier, cheaper, better for everybody, either you're rich or poor. It's something Greentech can really help us a lot here. And the third thing was something great I wanted to say, but I don't have it in mind right now. I think.
Don't worry, I'll come back to you. So the final question I wanted to close with, this is a message from the audience. What is, and we sort of touched on this earlier, but what is the thing that gives you the most optimism for our future on this big spaceship? Daniel?
To see, the thing I mentioned earlier, that people understand that we stick together. I see this development also, I don't know how you think about this world, also in a kind of spiritual way. People feel and understand that only when we understand that we are one, we will tackle this problem, what is in front of us. And when we are rid of the presidents of this world who think there's only either we or they. So it's us. And I think the development, although we have some really stupid people being presidents nowadays, the development is quite strong, and people are understanding more and more that we are one people, and this is giving me hope.
Amazing. Mujan?
Yeah, I want to build up on what Daniel said. I think that especially, again, this crisis, this COVID-19 crisis showed us that what we are capable of doing and how we can change, our lifestyle that we think things were impossible of doing. So if we're thinking that we're all one and we're fighting against an external problem, which can be, for example, the pollution, we can be the emissions, we can be anything else, and not fighting among us, that is what big lesson that I think we learned. And I think we should keep up, keeping this mindset and being united together, because climate change and the global crisis is not only for one country. It's a butterfly effect. One country in a small island, they can change something in the other side of the world. So you saw that the coronavirus, it came from China, and it was so out of our minds that how this is happening. We were thinking this is science fiction. How can that spread this big? And we now see the interconnection of between each other, between people, between countries, and that is, I think, the big lesson that we learned. And I'm really, really optimistic about it. I think that it is, this is a mindset that many people have, now, and I hope that we keep having it.
Amazing. Chris?
Well, how can I possibly top that? That was amazing. I'll just say it looks to me like Jensenist and Friedmanite capitalism is dying. So great. The quicker the better, but that kind of capitalism has caused a lot of problems over my lifetime, and I'm happy to see it beginning to run out of steam. I also, and this is maybe, I agree with my fellow panelists that our superpower is our ability to cooperate and to see ourselves as one humanity. But what I also say is, I've been an environmentalist since I was a much younger person, but what I now see is more and more pragmatists, more and more people who would scoff at the idea that they were idealists, who don't consider themselves to be, dreamers, who love to hug trees or whatever, coming into this way of thinking, coming into the Greentech way of thinking, if you want to put it that way. So if I say what's the inflection point? Daniel said 2015. What's the inflection point that gives me some hope that we're going to make it? That's a big one.
Amazing. So thank you, all of you. This is super interesting. Do you each want to say like a Twitter handle, or if you have a newsletter, or any way if people are interested in kind of following you or finding out more about you? Chris, what would it be?
Well, it's at Chris_Coleridge, and my venture builder is Carbon13.
Amazing. Daniel?
It's at Visevic, my surname, Visevic, and that's everywhere, either LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook, Visevic.
Amazing. Mujan?
Yeah, mine is also my first name, last name, Mujan Asghari. It's on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you can just, also join Women in AI. It's called Women in AI, but actually we're open to men as well, because we can't achieve diversity without their help. So it's womeninai.co. It's free to join, and we'll be happy to have you on board.
Amazing. And I'm Amy Lewin, and we're www.sifted.EU, and we have a newsletter where we frequently share sustainability and green tech stuff, and we hope to do more, so please sign up. And thank you, Lou, for inviting me to moderate this.
Thank you so much, Amy, for moderating this. Thank you so much to Daniel, Chris, Mujan, Barbara, that had a space visit for a few minutes. We're super grateful for your input and your ideas. We had so many questions coming on the live stream. We're gonna synthesize them and also put them together so you also understand what is on the minds of green entrepreneurs at the moment. We're also putting now on the chat, on the live stream on YouTube, all the links to the accounts that Amy, Daniel, Chris, Mojan, we're also going to add Barbara, have mentioned, so you can stay connected. I cannot speak highly enough about Sifted's perspective on sustainability. It has been a truly honest and exciting one, so definitely follow Amy's suggestion to subscribe to the newsletter. Now we're coming to the last part of the event, and this is for us to announce a few of the offers that will be given to startups for the ones that have joined the Greentech Alliance. I first would like to invite Jonas to join the stage. Jonas, are you here? Jonas is one of the founders of Urban Impact.
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear us well?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. Jonas, can you tell us a bit about what you're working on and what the Greentech Alliance members would be able to access already tomorrow?
Yes. Thanks, first of all, Lubomila. We are very happy as Urban Impact to join as partner, support the Greentech Alliance. Today, I'm really happy to share with you. Someone just in the discussion dropped it. Really, it's about helping green tech startups survive this crisis, to also come out stronger out of this crisis. And I think one way of surviving is providing better access to opportunities for them to actually implement their solutions. Because in the end, this is how we'll get the scalability. This is how we'll get the impact. So today, what we are very happy to announce is to give early access to a new platform we are soft launching today, especially for the Greentech Alliance members. It's called City Ops. You can access on ops.city. We will also circulate the link afterwards again to all the members. And you are pre-vetted through your membership with the Greentech Alliance to get access to the platform. What you can find is actually a collection of all the ongoing awards, all the relevant green tech tenders, all of different challenges, but also grants from national ministries, for instance, that deal with innovation in cities, different green tech topics like mobility, like urban farming, like waste and water, sustainable cities. And this is what we are very happy to everyone today.
Amazing. This is incredible. And I'm so excited because I've had a sneak preview of the platform during a conversation we had with Jonas last week. And I cannot speak highly enough of the incredible insight with which it has been built, with incredible depth to the knowledge of what startups need. And I'm so happy that we can share this with our community. It has been added to the link below, so you can see on the YouTube live stream the link. Also, it will be circulated in an email to the members. Thank you so much, Jonas, for joining us. And I will then now join in with the second perk that we would like to announce. Can you please mention, from those of you that are still here, we still have 150 people, can you say in the comments if you are a member or you have applied? Today, we got quite a few applications while we were doing the event, so we're quite excited to see the number growing. But can you comment if you're a member? And if not, then I'll tell in the meantime the second perk. Today, we announce also a partnership with Morrison Foerster. Morrison Foerster is a premier law firm with cutting-edge knowledge and depth experience in both technology and green impact investment. In the partnership with us, they will provide legal service on the entire growth spectrum of a company: founding, finance, equity rounds, growth capital, access to capital through debt, tax, employment, data protection, and all topics arising in the connection with apps. Advice for the Alliance will be pro bono. Of course, you need to be a member to be able to access this advice. The firm has offices in Berlin, London, across the US and Asia. They have incredibly deep knowledge with regards to legal topics from all around the world. So it's not limited only to Europe. And we have the honor to have Angela Kerek, who's one of the partners, as a contact person there. Another exciting announcement from today is about Mission Possible. Mission Possible is a conference that is going to be happening in 2 weeks' time. And I can tell you the insight that Tom, the person behind Meaningful Business, who's one of our advisors, consulted me before deciding on which topics the conference is going to be focused on. It's an exclusive set of content pieces that are going to be focused on educating companies around the issues that you have answered in your survey as challenging for you at the moment: funding, sales, marketing, supply chain as well, and also impact and how you implement impact mindset in your business. And then final two announcements are with regards to pitch deck reviews. Some of you might have already seen some comments that were made in the channel chat on YouTube. Essentially, we have the honor to have close to 20 advisors who come from the VC sphere, and all of them have accepted to review pitch decks. We're going to start doing this in batches. And what this means is that you have a direct access to impact investors that are not only going to give you feedback, but also going to give you an opportunity to pitch your company so that they potentially can consider investing in your own startup. And finally, the announcement about offers to members is about a partnership we've established with Change Now. Change Now is starting a pitch competition that is going to have exclusive access to the Greentech Alliance members that is going to be happening in July. Of course, to be able to access all of this information, you need to be a member. So please apply, and we'll do our best to respond as quick as possible. We have been overwhelmed positively by all the different applications that we got. We got close to 300 applications over the last few weeks, and today we got quite a few as well, thanks to this event. So please bear with us. We're going to do our best. Keep in mind we're doing this after work and before work and on the weekend, so it's still quite a lot to be able to digest. And now, as final remarks, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. It has been incredible to see so many of you here and not losing your attention for quite a long time. We are overwhelmed by your positive response and by your willingness to cooperate. We're truly in this topic for the belief that our planet deserves a more healthy future and humanity deserves a more just alignment of values, I would say, and also a more clear path to addressing societal and environmental issues. We're there to do that. We're there to do this together with you. We're not there to do it by ourselves in competition. We're there to work together with all of you and help you solve your issues. And we're super honored to have you on board. Thank you so much. And we're going to say bye for tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Murjan.